Hi there, and welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you've been here before. Series 7 of Inside Number 9 is finally upon us, and I'm going to be here every week sharing my thoughts on each new episode, starting off with Merrily. But before we begin, I should let you know that our little community has been discovered, and some persons of interest may or may not be listening. So, if that's the case, hi Reese, hi Steve. Big fan of your work for many years now, and can I just say it's been an absolute pleasure to share it with all of these lovely people on the internet. I'm sure I speak for everyone here when I say thanks for everything and please keep up the amazing work. Anyway, back to Series 7, and what an opener it was. I think we all knew we were in for a treat when we saw Mark Gatiss and Diane Morgan being announced as guest stars. I've been asked many times who I'd like to see at number 9 and call me predictable, but I've always said Mark Gatiss. Nice to see the old band back together. And I must say, Mark, nice job on the Scottish accent. That's not an easy one to do. I know he did it once before on Nighty Night, but it's nice to hear that it also works on a slightly less mad character. Diane Morgan is also fantastic here and gets some of the funniest lines in the episode. Although I will say that Mark's response to the Five Guys comment will stay with me forever. Her delivery is just pitch perfect with every single moment. How anyone managed to keep a straight face on that boat, especially during the psycho and guinea pig exchanges, I'll never know. She just does that unconscious comedian role so well. I remember thinking the exact same thing when I saw her as Philomena Kunk on Charlie Brooker's Screen Wipe. And speaking of which, I was also very impressed by the work of director Al Campbell. You may or may not remember him as Screen Wipe's Barry Shitpiece. Wow, it's kind of like a reunion or something. Straight away, we've got a great premise as Inside Number 9 goes outside for a change. But despite being set in the great outdoors, which manages to look both beautiful and ominous at the same time, it's not long before the old Number 9 claustrophobia really kicks in. Once they're confined together, this time in a small pedalo, not pedo, we see the characters and their conflicts start to emerge. We've got Callum, a successful doctor, Darren, a slightly less successful former sports science student, and Lawrence, the one who's still clinging to the past for reasons unknown. And then we have Donna, who's along for the ride by accident under the false pretences that Judge Rinderoff Strictly might be making an appearance. But that looks doubtful. I'll be talking a little bit more about the characters in the spoiler section, but even on the surface this is still a great take on reunions and the kind of feelings that people attach to them. Between the nostalgia, miscommunications and high expectations, the experience can be a bit of a minefield, and there's no guarantee that anything will go to plan. I mean, there's usually a reason people drift apart in the first place. That isn't the case for everyone, of course, but it certainly comes into play here, along with the added complication of being alone on a lake together. You can't help but wonder that, if something happens, are these people going to be able to work together and make it safely back to shore, or will things inevitably capsize in more ways than one? Of course, this is also a real-life reunion between Mark, Steve and Reese, who all went to university together. It's amazing to think of how far they've all come and how much history they must have shared by this point. And I think the viewer feels that too, at least those of us who grew up watching The League of Gentlemen and who've formed their own bonds and memories around it. I still watch it with my sister every Christmas. There's nostalgia, but it's a bittersweet kind of nostalgia. The kind where you worry that the best days of your life are really behind you, or you wish things had turned out a little bit different. I know we often praise Number 9 for the humour, the horror and the clever twists, but this one really lets us appreciate the drama and the characters. I was really moved by this episode, I loved it, and I hope you enjoy it too. Now, I'm going to get into a few spoilers, so if you haven't seen Merrily yet, I'll let you go now, and we can catch up again for next week's episode. So, if you're still here, I just want to say how much I absolutely loved each of these characters and their backstories. I loved Callum's regret, a lesser explored one, as someone who's found success in a profession that many would see as valuable and rewarding, but he realises it all rings hollow when he's achieved his ambitions and the thrill of the chase is gone. It's that goal that shines brightly in front of your eyes for what feels like forever, then you finally get there and you just feel empty. If anyone's ever felt that, even in a minor way, then you'll know how awful that is. Maybe it's the way Mark delivers it, but I absolutely bought it. But at least he has his dog children, so it can't all be bad. Then we've got Lawrence, and while it looks like the episode might be setting him up for some sinister secret motive, he's simply a grieving widower who's found himself stuck in a rut now that his wife has passed. Now, we've seen number 9 deal with the messed up ways grief can affect a person, see Diddle Dumpling or Private View for examples, but this time it isn't something twisted or frightening, it's just missing someone, pure and simple. We never see Bonnie in person, but we really feel her absence. We know how long her and Lawrence were together, and that she was probably the only light in an otherwise dull and uninspiring life. And how she was as a person, the one who would greet new people with open arms and always knew what to say. Lawrence is just lost without her, and so the ending, while tragic from the outside, is also very touching and beautiful from his point of view. And that moment with the fireworks, well, you'd have to have a heart of stone not to be moved. I also really like how they wrote Donna, as she's so much more important than just comic relief, despite giving us some much needed moments of levity earlier on. She's one of those rare souls with no lofty ambitions, no deep regrets, and someone who's just happy with life and with themselves. That's actually a lot more special than people would have you believe. Self-actualised is probably how Lawrence might describe her, being a psychology teacher. Despite being an outsider and the only one who didn't go to university, none of that matters to Donna, and she ends up being probably the most well-adjusted person in the group. Once again, I love how Diane Morgan played her character, and she set the bar pretty high for guest stars for the rest of the series. But I think, out of all of them, my favourite backstory was Darren's. Watch the episode again and you'll see so many things recontextualised by his dyslexia and so many subtle hints at the impact this has had on his life. Darren worked hard to get his A-levels but was still forced to drop out of university, where I doubt he would have got much support back in those days. He would have also struggled to keep in touch with his friends, as this would involve keeping up with the round robins, which he would have had trouble reading, plus he might have been too embarrassed to write back. He must be painfully aware of his friends' condescending remarks, and that they probably see him as less intelligent. He even misread the invite for the reunion, which is why his girlfriend ends up missing a hen do to attend a boat party that never existed. Now, dyslexia might be low-hanging fruit for some comedy writers, but it's a condition that can seriously impact a person's life, opportunities, and self-esteem. Here, I think the subject was approached with genuine care and empathy through Darren's character. It's also heartbreaking when we learn that his book idea, which his friends were laughing at only a short while ago, was his own attempt at tackling his difficulties and helping other people like him in the process. That's a really brave thing for him to do, and it makes sense now when Donna says that she cried after reading it. Darren doesn't get bitter at the world, but instead he chooses to make it fairer. And that, for me, feels very hopeful, inspirational even. I know I can't speak for dyslexic people, but I love how this was handled, and that it didn't end up as an Ollie Plimsoll's issue-based play. And finally, I love the direction the story went in, which for me defied all expectations. Between Lawrence's odd behaviour, wondering what's in the bag, and the mysterious figure in black, which gave me horrible flashbacks to the spirit of Dark and Lonely Water, it looked like we were heading for some very dark plot twist. But that wasn't the case, and what we ended up with was something far more meaningful rather than just another rug pull. Sometimes the twist is there is no twist. I even felt it in Christian Henson's score, with the violin at the start reminding me of last season's How Do You Plead, in which the instrument was associated with Satan. Here, the same instrument is used to underscore the feelings of grief and loneliness, which is exactly what Lawrence is experiencing, even if we don't know it at first. When he dies, the effect is more surreal than frightening, as the ferryman takes him back to his lost beloved. The comment about his friends being on the other side might be an ambiguous one, as technically they're in the middle of the lake when he says this, but it seems from the podcast that the others were rescued, which is why their boat is now empty. And yes, it would have been the icing on the cake if Jeremy Dyson had been cast as the ferryman, but I still think the episode works as it is. A very strong start to Series 7, and I can't wait to see what they do next. So there you have it. What did you think of Merrily, Merrily, and has everyone managed to spot the hair yet? I'll be honest, I didn't see it in the first go because I was just so wrapped up in the story, but there weren't many places it could have been, and I had a hunch later on that turned out to be right. You'll find it towards the end of the episode among the decorations at Bonnie's shrine. So let me know your thoughts on the episode down below, and don't forget to like, subscribe and ring the bell so that you can hear my thoughts on episode 2, Mr. King, as soon as it goes up on YouTube next week. Until next time, goodbye.